Welcome back to the den for my quick 5 of Phoenix Artisan Accoutrements barbershops. In my last quick 5, Noble Otter, when I talked about bar, I gave my analogy of mom's cooking and how, in my opinion, barbershops are catch-all and can encompass many fragrances. Much like a fragrance wheel, I believe that barbershops have its own fragrance wheel, even though it hasn't been established by the industry or by the fragrance community. In America, when we talk about a barbershop, what we're usually talking about is an old school fragrance, many times that will comprise of the fragrances of talc, colognes, fresh, clean, musk, even leather, vetiver, and tobacco. They can even include bay rum, even though a lot of times, I know a lot of you have already turned up your nose as soon as I said bay rum, but a bay rum can be classified as a barbershop fragrance, and that is because bay rums have been used in many barbershops for a couple hundred years. Bay rums go back to the 1600s, and they've been in barbershops since somewhere around the 1800s, maybe even sooner. Sandalwood, Old Spice, Pinnacle, Pinaud Clubman, Lucky Tiger, even Brillicream, hair tonics. There's so many different things that can encapsulate the barbershop term. And for each individual, the barbershop can be different. For me, for the most part, when I think of a barbershop, I think of something with talc, not always, but fresh, clean, and masculine. And that, like I said, can include leather, vetiver, and tobacco. All right, before we dive into my quick 5, let me also add the caveat that just jumped in my mind. Cheap coffee. I've even heard people talk about the fragrances of cheap coffee, Folgers, whatever, right, in a barbershop. A barbershop isn't just a fragrance, it's an experience. With that said, let's dive into my first fragrance, number 5, CAD. Stands for Cease and Desist. It is an homage to the original Barbasol. Not this canned goo that we buy today, but the Barbasol of about 100 years ago. Talc, rose, bergamot, oak moss, vetiver, coumarin, and musk. Vintage Barbasol, and it is so damn good. Crisp, clean, a little powdery. Number 4 in my quick 5 barbershops is another homage, and this one is to Pinaud Clubman, and we have Club Guy. Club Guy is so much better than the original. The original vintage barbershop, I've never had the opportunity to put my nose on. But Club Guy, in my opinion, is 10 times that of what the Pinaud Clubman is. It's so damn good. And it fits right into with what I've talked about in previous videos. I believe it was the Irish Spring Enlightener Well video, that Doug takes these classic fragrances and puts like this elegant premium touch to them. So again, in Clubman, we're going to find talc, bergamot, lime, rosemary, spearmint, that's the top, geranium, lavender. I've never really picked up the lavender, pepper, tobacco. In the base we have tonka, amber, oak moss, vanilla, fresh citrus, woody, and spicy. This is a green and clean barbershop. It is so damn good. Talk about just a classic fragrance. This could be classified as a fougere, but it's like a fougere barbershop. And I'd really would like to see someone at some point undertake a barbershop fragrance wheel, because I do believe that one exists. The community has, the industry has clearly established that. And if you look at the fragrance wheels that are out there from all of our, you know, Fougères and Chypres and all these other classic categories, that in a lot of ways in the last 100 years or so, we have, maybe less than that, right? I don't know. But we have created a new spoke in that wheel. Good stuff, Maynard. Number 3 is a Razor Emporium exclusive. The only place that you can buy it is at Razor Emporium. And talk about a classic barbershop fragrance. They took the shave sticks from the 1900 Gillette and they basically brought it back to life. I've never smelled one of those either, but what we have is King R Emporium, and the colors and the label look very much like the original Gillette label did, except for they've removed King C Gillette and they've added Mr. King R Emporium, Matt Prosarsik himself, and thrown on a mustache for good measure. Almond, lemon, bergamot, cool mint, lavender, green accord, sandalwood, cedarwood, amber, musk, and West Indian Bay. Guys, it is so good. If you've never tried this fragrance, but you want to try, like, just the perfect barbershop. Number 2. Number 2 has a killer name and an epic fragrance. And when you know the history behind the name, it makes it amazing. High Jump 47 is named after an expedition that the Navy did in August of 1946. The whole expedition ended up rolling over into 1947. It was led by a guy by the name of Admiral Richard E. Burr. It's spelt like bird, B-R-Y-D, but my understanding is that the D is silent. They went down to Antarctica with the largest, most heavily armed naval task force ever. And it involves Nazis and UFOs, and just, there's a crazy cool story. I'll put in the links below, or in the description, I'll put a link to one of my favorite YouTube channels, and that's called the Y-Files. And they just explore all these different crazy cool things, right? That's like sci-fi and paranormal and whatnot. But they share some of the history of this. And what's cool too about the Y-Files is that they present like a common legend, and then they try and debunk it. And almost always they do find a way to debunk it. The expedition is real, but the UFO part, right? That's not why you're here. You're here for the fragrance. This now comes in a new label. Just so those who don't know, I'll put it right up here so you know what you're looking for. It's now in a black label with this is a real picture of Admiral Burr. And then the new label has a famous portrait of Admiral Burr on the cover, on the, you know, on the artwork. Brew Bronco, that's a tree. And so we have the Brew Bronco resin is the first ingredient. And that's followed by amber, bitter orange, bergamot, animalic musk. Something else is cool about High Jump 47 is Doug and Fran are known for doing several different trilogies. I think this is might have been the last trilogy that they've done. It's been a while since they've done one. And this was part 1 in the Agartha trilogy, and that consisted of High Jump 47, Strange Island, which currently isn't available, but is an epic fragrance, and then one of my all-time favorite fragrances, as is it one of my wife's favorites, and that's Agartha. So part 1 in the Agartha trilogy. Oh, and this does pair well with Agartha and Strange Island, which is the whole purpose behind trilogies, is he's got a story to be told, and then the fragrances can be used with one another. Number 1, one of the fragrances that I absolutely love. I have the Solid, the EDP, the whole line of it. Something that's cool about the way that Doug does fragrances is he doesn't know any bounds. There's no limits on what he does. And you can see that in his barbershops. A fragrance that I really enjoy is called Red Planet. that could be classified as a barbershop. And with that, number one is not Red Planet. With Red Planet, though, the whole thinking behind that is what if there was like a barbershop on Red Planet Mars? What would that look like? And so Red Planet, while most wouldn't think of it as being a barbershop, it can fall into the category of barbershop. If I remember, I'll put it right up here, or maybe a link in the, no, it's gone now, right? Oh, snap. Red Planet's gone. Sorry about that. Forget that I said that, okay? All right, number one. But number one is like, what if there was a 1960s barbershop boardwalk experience? There never was, but if there were, it would be Good Vibrations. That's the thinking behind this guy here. Good Vibrations is horse chestnut blossoms. So at the top we have tree blossoms, one of them being horse chestnut, and that's followed up by sandalwood, mahogany, rosewood, a light vanilla muskiness, rosemary, soft lavender, amber, talc, and oak moss. Forget that you saw that. Oak moss. It's so good. So forgive me for not, going into describing fragrances. It's just a quick 5, and it always end up taking longer than I intended to. But if I broke down fragrances, it would be more of a review, and I'm not doing that with this series. I want to thank you for joining me. And remember, forget about my 2 blunders there. And it's the little big things. This is only shaving, so save the drama for your mama. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be relaxing. And yeah, that's all I got to say about that. Y'all take care of yourself, and have a great week, and thanks for joining me.